What's up, everybody? Welcome into the Nesson.com NFL podcast. We're in a little bit different location today, huh, Ricky Doyle?
Yeah, it's different. It's definitely different. I like it though. I'm not gonna lie about that.
Yeah.
Plenty of good food that we'll get to in a little bit.
Yeah.
Good food, good football talk. I mean, what else do you want?
Yeah,
what
exactly.
Else do you need, really?
For those who haven't figured it out, I mean, you probably should know if you've, local to hit up the Watertown watering holes.
Yeah.
We're at Miller's Alehouse in Watertown. Miller's Alehouse is a place where you can hang out, watch sports, have fun, be yourself, and enjoy the company of others without breaking the bank. I know that's really important for you.
All the above, I'll take.
They freshly prepared dishes. I know this is another thing you love. Over 75 brews and refreshing cocktails.
Yeah.
So it's a little something for everybody.
Yep. You want to come down, get a drink, and the food. We got the zingers here. We got some wings.
Right.
I'm sure we'll be picking at those over the course of the day. It doesn't matter that we're filming this.
Yeah, I don't like
before
that.
noon.
I don't like that we're doing our first video podcast with just a table full of food.
It could get ugly.
I think it's a fair warning that we're gonna probably stuff our faces at some point.
Well, I think that also speaks to why we dressed down a little bit for the occasion.
Yeah.
Went away from the old traditional shirt and tie look and busted out the jeans.
I
didn't know I got shoes on. You can't really see them on here, but I got shoes on. Didn't know whether to go shoes with jeans. It's kind of like it's almost like a Jerry Seinfeld look, I guess. Like the blazer with the like a turtleneck underneath.
Sure.
Kind of mixed up.
The way I see it, it's zinger eating clothes.
Right. I'm with you. All right. We should talk football though.
Yeah, but that's what we're really here to do is talk some football. We're into the playoffs, Ricky. What did you think of the Week 17 and all the craziness that went down with that?
I guess it was crazy.
Yeah, it wasn't that crazy.
Last week going into it, there was it kind of lacked a little intrigue this year. I mean, obviously that final spot in the AFC was up for grabs.
I thought that was kind of captivating for at least an hour on Sunday.
Yeah. But beyond that, the NFC was pretty much wrapped up.
Well,
so that was a total wash.
Yeah, even if you look at Sunday night, the NFC North, the Packers. We'll get into this a little bit more. The Packers almost benefited by losing.
Oh, absolutely.
You lose you don't get to hang a banner. You don't get a home game in the first round, but maybe kind of help themselves out with the matchup. So we'll get into that. We're gonna, same deal as usual. Make our picks for all 4 games this week. A little easier than 16 this time around,
which is good because we do a lot of complaining throughout the regular season about all the terrible matchups. So
yeah, these should be pretty good.
We're going to be as happy as we can be, I guess.
Yeah, which isn't saying a whole lot, but, we love misery. And also, we should probably mention now, before we get into things, he'll want to hear it. Ben Watanabe, our regular season champion. He was up a game going into Week 17. I tried to catch him. He went out on a limb in a couple of games and got a couple heartbreaking fails to cover late in the game. So Ben wins. We're resetting the clock for
and not a moment too soon
for the playoffs.
I was pretty much out of it in week 4.
Yeah, you didn't have a very good year.
No, I got real. What I did is I fell behind early and I got real one-dimensional.
Yeah,
and you can't do that in the pick game. You can't.
That's for sure. Would you have a good week last week to finish at least?
I don't have to dig into the arc. I go under the hood.
Nope, you probably didn't.
It's halftime adjustments.
All right, let's get to the games.
Let's do it.
We got 4 this week. Again, it's wild card weekend, starting Saturday. We're throwing in Saturday because the NFL, heaven forbid, 2 games go at one time.
Yeah.
This game's Saturday, 4:35 p.m. Eastern time in Houston. Starting off with a doozy. We did say games would be better this week. This one, I don't really know.
Yeah, this is the one that I'm right now.
We'll all be watching. Kansas City, they're going to go to Houston and take on the Texans. The Chiefs, 3.5-point favorites. Road favorites here. I think we're going to see that a lot throughout this weekend. Yeah. Actually, I think we're going to see it all weekend, going off a late line change that we'll get to a little later. Kansas City, 3.5-point favorites here on the road. I guess what jumps out of you to begin with here?
Well, I never really liked the 3.5-point spread.
No, that's terrible. Yeah.
Especially if it's in favor of if we're looking at a road favorite.
Road team.
That jumped off the page and it was scaring me a little bit from the onset.
Yep.
But then, just the more I look at it, it seems to me a terrible matchup for the Texans.
That exactly.
The Chiefs, we'll find out over the next couple of weeks whether they're for real, obviously.
Right.
But, over the course of this 10-game winning streak that they're on, their defense has been, lights out.
Yep.
And
they haven't played a lot of teams.
That's the thing, which is why I think that they have the ability to survive this week, and then they'll be truly tested next week. I think against the Texans, though, I don't have enough faith in that offense to move the ball against the Kansas City Chiefs defense.
Yeah. The way I look at it too is, Brian Hoyer. We talked about it at times this season. the concussion issues. He got real banged up in that Patriots game. And I think the weird, the scary, harsh reality for the Texans is they're one big hit away from Brandon Weeden coming into the game.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't really like that. I also like the Chiefs getting healthy, or at least a couple of key spots. Justin Houston should be back. I think. Let me just double check this here. He missed the final 4 games of the season with a knee injury. And they still did what they did without him. I think he gets after the quarterback, and once he starts putting pressure on a guy like Hoyer, who had a nice year but still isn't.
He is what he is.
Yeah, exactly.
Whatever.
That he's going to be put in a spot where he's going to make some bad decisions. The Chiefs, as good as just about anybody other than the Panthers at winning that turnover battle. I think that's the key again this week. So one thing to keep an eye on: Jeremy Maclin kind of suffered a hip injury in Week 17. He's kind of up in the air, but he says there's no way he'd miss this game. And they had Tamba Hali back too. So
that's big. And then on the flip side, Houston losing Dwayne Brown.
Right.
I mean, you lose a 2-time Pro Bowl tackle. That's pretty much Houston's trending in the wrong direction in terms of health, while, as you mentioned, Kansas City trending in the right direction.
Right, and again, we talk about Houston injuries as well. Nate Washington, day-to-day, supposedly with a hip injury, he suffered in Week 17. Who really knows? Hip's not something you want to screw around with. That kind of
fantasy waiver wire all-star, Nate Washington. This is a guy that you pick up off the scrap heap every
right.
year.
Yeah, and Cecil Shorts, kind of in the same vein. Yeah. He missed the final 2 games of the season with a hamstring injury. Says he'll play, but again, when you're dealing with these nagging type of injuries, you never know. And when you're going up against a defense like Kansas City's that can lock down on the outside, if they force if those guys are less than 100% or not even anywhere near 100%, you can kind of devote all you have to slowing down DeAndre Hopkins. So it's just, again, like you mentioned, it's not a great matchup.
Right. So. Kansas City, I mean, has the horse to do it, Marcus Peters.
Right.
So, I mean, you could probably, I think it's safe to say, he's the Defensive Rookie of the Year front runner.
Although these two teams did meet in I think it was week 1. Kansas City won 27-20, but if I'm not mistaken, Hopkins did score a touchdown on Peters. So but again, I think that's one of the best matchups, individual player matchups, the entire weekend. So.
And I mean, even if Peters just minimizes the impact that and you don't need him to shut him down.
Right.
But I mean, that's just, if you're Brian Hoyer, you look out and your favorite target is being minimized to some extent. That takes away from an already lackluster offense.
Yeah, especially if those guys aren't able to go or aren't as good as they could be. Looking at the rest of our picks, again, we're making picks with Ben Watanabe and Nessun.com video host Michaela Vernava joining us for playoff picks as well.
Bold strategy by her coming in for the playoffs.
Yeah.
I mean, I figured she'd take one long look at us and be like, nah, I'm staying away from that.
Right. At the very least, pay your dues.
Veteran.
Little sketchy, but hey, whatever.
What
She's in on the Chiefs. Ben, the only one taking the Texans, so he likes the points in this situation, I guess. I didn't really read why he said, but it's probably a terrible reason, so whatever.
We'll trust him.
You want to move on?
We can, after I get a fry in the system.
Oh, wait, actually, got to mention this before we move on. Andy Reid is involved in this game. So everything we just spent the last 5 minutes talking about could be for naught with Andy Reid being Andy Reid.
Let's not discredit the fact that Kansas City hasn't won a playoff game since 1993.
That's a long time ago.
That is. I mean, I think like Ric Flair was holding the belt back then. I think like Aladdin was in theaters or something, and I read that somewhere. So
that's
very long time ago.
Well, who's the quarterback?
Me and you were making picks.
Is that Montana? I mean, geez.
Yeah, we were making picks at the ripe age of 4.
Andy Reid. Well, I wish I was a little older than that.
Well, yeah.
Andy Reid,
I'm the spring chicken of the bunch.
10-10 in his career in the playoffs. 0-1 with Kansas City. Hasn't won a playoff game since the 2008 season. So either he's due or he stinks. It's kind of the story of Andy Reid.
Yep.
All right. The NFL splitting them with the conferences. We're staying with Saturday, staying with the AFC. This is a good one, too. Injuries kind of playing a role, but Pittsburgh is going to go to Cincinnati to take on the Bengals. The Bengals, as recently as 3-4 weeks ago, looked like a team that could contend for the number 1 seed.
Yeah.
Andy Dalton goes down with that broken right thumb. A.J. McCarron steps in, and they kind of miss a beat here and there. And that real bad loss Monday night, Week 16 to Denver, kind of comes back to bite them in the
very winnable game.
Right. So the Steelers, I mean, Dalton not expected to be back. I guess he got the cast off of his thumb, but the Bengals are preparing all week like they're going to go with McCarron. So
yeah, I mean, I'd be shocked if Andy Dalton ended up playing.
And I think that's a big reason the Steelers 2.5-point favorites here. This is a tough one to pick because anytime you're dealing with divisional games, it's tough. Just look at what happened to the Steelers down the stretch where, they lose to the Ravens and then they get in a rock fight with the Browns. Those games are tough to win in the division. And when it's an old adage, it's the third game of a season or whatever is always the toughest. It's a division. It's just a lot of weird things going on here. But again, Steelers 2.5-point favorites on the road.
Again, the road favorite always scares me come playoff time. I mean, it's just inevitable. But I still like the Steelers in this game because, I mean, for the reasons that you mentioned, I think this is going to come down to a quarterback game.
Mm-hmm.
So you're looking at Roethlisberger versus McCarron. I'm going to err on the side of the guy who's won a couple Super Bowls. Because I just feel like both of these teams, the way to expose the opposition is through the air.
Yep.
I mean, obviously, the Steelers have the third worst pass defense in the NFL.
Yep.
Worst among playoff teams. So that's going to force A.J. McCarron to have to make plays.
Right.
I don't know if he can do it. I mean, maybe he can. So it's like, it's one of those things where you don't really know either way going into it.
Yeah.
But from the sample that we have seen, it was 3 starts. I think the most he threw for was 200 yards. So, I mean, it's not like he's lighting the world on fire going into this or anything. And then on the flip side, I think the way that the Steelers are obviously going to be able to pull out a win is to rely on their passing attack,
right,
as they've done all season with Roethlisberger healthy. So, really, this is going to come down to a battle of the quarterbacks. At least that's the way I could see it shaking out. And in that case, I'm gonna go with the veteran over a guy who, again, McCarron. We don't know.
Yeah.
Just don't know.
I get what you're saying. I like what you're saying. I disagree with just about everything you're saying.
Well, that's your fault. I'm
taking the Bengals.
I got a nice big plate of jambalaya that I can just throw right in your direction.
Give me the points. I'm taking the points on the road here, or at home, excuse me, which I like even more. Tough to win on the road in the playoffs, despite what I might end up picking for the rest of the round. But you look at the injuries, and I think that they're kind of starting to mount for the Steelers. D'Angelo Williams, it looked terrible. Week 17 ankle injury, and it was it was one of those ones where guys are kind of gathering up around him. It looks bad. Looks like he's not going to be able to.
Prepare for the old thumbs up off the field.
Yeah,
this is it.
I mean, I guess it's not being considered season-ending, whatever. He's going to give it a go or try to give it a go. He's considered day-to-day. It's a sprain, no structural damage, nothing like that. But this is a guy who gets paid money to run, and he uses his feet to do that still, right?
It's important, yeah.
So if he's got a bad ankle and he's trying to cut out there and do things like that, I'm not sure he's going to be effective, and I'm not sure he's going to be able to do it.
Yeah, but I mean, if there's one thing I've learned this season, I'm not going to overreact to running back injuries.
Okay.
I mean, we've talked about the Chiefs, and they lose Jamal Charles, and they plug in Spencer Ware, Chakondrick West.
Okay.
I feel like there's the ability to overcome that type of injury.
Yeah.
I mean, even the Steelers themselves. I mean, we really saw D'Angelo Williams playing that type of role after Le'Veon Bell.
Yeah. I mean, but how many times can you name who's going to be in the backfield if D'Angelo Williams isn't?
He's the Frenchman, Fitzgerald Toussaint.
Toussaint, yeah. Fitzgerald Toussaint. I read somewhere if
not to be confused with the prospect, the major league prospect.
If D'Angelo Williams can't go, as I read, they're going to go with a 3-headed backfield monster of Toussaint, Jordan Todman, and fullback Will Johnson. I don't know who any of those guys are.
That smells like Smash Mouth football.
That's not good. Also, Martavis Bryant suffered an undisclosed injury. Also screwed me over in my fantasy championship.
Sure,
that's what I get for having a Week 17 matchup. But the guy he's been nowhere the last couple weeks. I guess he suffered some sort of injury in addition to dealing with some sort of illness, the flu or whatever.
Big Ben even calling him out.
Toughen
up.
Yeah.
Toughen up.
Jarvis Jones, also undisclosed injury, expected to play, but you never know. So there's injuries starting to mount there.
Yeah.
And I don't know.
Nobody's fresh as lettuce this time of year. We know this.
Right. And the interesting thing goes in your direction here. These two teams split their matchups this season. The road team won both games. So there's that. Here's the kicker. It's supposed to rain. Yeah.
It's going to get a little sloppy.
That could affect the passing game, which is, you kind of think.
Yeah, I mean, I can't see it any other way than A.J. McCarron having to beat him. Just because,
I guess.
The Bengals have the horses in
right.
Jeremy Hill and Gio Bernard. But the Steelers, 5th-ranked run defense, stopped them there in the regular season. They split this season series. So it's I just feel like it's going to ride on McCarron's shoulders. And if he proves me wrong, he proves me wrong. I mean, it wouldn't be the first time wrong.
Yeah, the Bengals did get, they averaged 100 yards per game on the ground against Pittsburgh this year. That is their, I mean, if they can't get the running game going, then yes, your pick looks a lot better.
Yeah.
Also, I don't feel great about picking Marvin Lewis to win a playoff game, considering he's never won a playoff game.
Yeah, it's weird having a Black Monday where his name wasn't mentioned on the chopping block.
Yeah.
I feel like every year, Marvin Lewis has been fired 8 times over.
And it's almost like I guess they could lose this weekend, and he probably won't lose his job either because you're going in there with A.J. McCarron. So it's kind of a built-in excuse. Whereas, and this is why I feel good about it. He's going up against Mike Tomlin. I think Tomlin, we've talked about this before, one of the most overrated coaches in football.
Yeah.
He's going to do
me and Ben
something
talked about that
stupid at
last
some
week.
point.
It's just-
Yeah. And I think
high school coach.
Right. Yeah.
Rah, nice.
Rears his ugly head this week. Wonder if he's going to go with the sunglasses on a Saturday night in the rain. Probably not, though. All right. We've reached our impromptu halftime, which means it's time to talk about some Miller's Alehouse fare. What do we? We've got. Look at
We got a lot. They hooked
came
us
in
up,
here.
and this isn't even mentioning the fire that we got
Right.
going on. That clearly, hours and hours of rubbing sticks together to get this thing going, and we got to toss some credit where it's due, if you will.
Yeah, I hope to God
They came in early to cook this. Too,
Yeah,
so
I
we're
hope
doing
this
something
fire is
good.
keeping this warm because we've got. I mean, what do we got here? We got some shrimp. We got the fries. I mean, we've been picking up the fries. The fries are delicious.
The fries are done. Yeah. Speaking of the Frenchman, Toussaint, we got the French fries.
We also have the zingers. The zingers are to die for. Let me see. I mean, we got.
When I was covering the Red Sox in spring training last season,
I was going to say
I frequented Miller's very
You're
often.
a big Miller's guy.
And the zingers were the go-to, the staple, if you will.
You know what they do? They put it in a sandwich too. Ever the zinger sandwich? That's delicious. They got 15 different sauces. Unbelievable. Also, I don't think we could see it here. Luckily, I kind of. I took a wing.
I think it's. I
had
the
one
bone
of
laying around here somewhere.
One of these jumbo wings. Yeah, there's a bone right down there. Luckily, nobody can see it that I had. And I guess
hopefully you don't have the reverse angle coming here.
Yeah, and you've been eyeing that jambalaya pretty much.
Yeah, well,
since we got here.
Well, this is what I said to you. I've never had jambalaya.
Right.
So, I mean, let's do it right now, right? What's in jambalaya, anyways?
That's a good question. In this one, there's shrimp, sausage, chicken, red and green peppers, onions, green onions, tomatoes, all sautéed with Cajun seasoning, and of course, rice. I think you can figure that out.
Yeah.
How is it?
That was good jambalaya.
Oh, you getting that next time? Maybe down if you go down to Fort Myers next
You might
year?
not make it to the end of the podcast, to be honest with you.
All right.
I'm
Also, the one thing you noticed earlier, we don't have it out here. Maybe we'll have to talk. I don't know who we have to talk to, but get one of these. Captain Jack Sparrow treasure.
Yeah.
Did you have that before, or is that just something you noticed?
I've never had it, but I noticed it on there earlier. I'm thinking maybe we polish this off at some point,
right?
And then we see if we can take a rain check for that.
That's
come
now
back after we spend the rest of our requisite 8 hours doing whatever.
Right. There's next week. I'm just saying. Homemade ice cream cake with Oreos, caramel, chocolate fudge, and Heath bar. Yeah. Oh my God.
You had me at Oreos. So.
All right.
Everybody come on down.
Let's get into the NFC, huh?
That's what we need. We need a packed house in there next time.
I know, yeah. We need
we'll send it out the bat signal.
The signal, listen to this.
Signal.
Sunday, 1 o'clock. This is kind of weird. Seattle has to go on the road to Minnesota, and they got to play an early game, 1 o'clock game. It is a tough spot for Seattle. They're still favored by 5 points here. These are two of the hotter teams in the league right now. One thing I want to talk about before we get into this, it could change things. It's supposed to be frigid in Minneapolis on Sunday.
Finally, because I was thinking, I said this last week in the podcast, we haven't really had a nice snow game, or one of those games where you just look at it and you just kind of feel for anybody that's there, just because it's so cold. I feel like we're lacking the elements this year. I think the people in New England can speak to that more than anyone, too. 1 degree. High of 1 degree. I like it.
The wind's going to start blowing. The wind chill's going to be way down. These two teams met week 13, Seattle rolled all over them, dump trucked them, 38-7. This game was in Minnesota. Seattle led 21-0 at the half, totally took away Adrian Peterson. Peterson had, 18 carries, or 18 yards on 8 carries.
Yes.
Not good. Took him out of the game early. I think that's the same strategy Seattle's going to be looking to go in with here. Who do you like in this one?
All right, well, Seattle is favored by 5
Correct.
as of Wednesday morning. So, from a betting standpoint, I'm going with the Vikings.
Okay.
13-2 against the spread in their last 15 games. Best team in the league against the spread this year, 13-3.
That's true.
And I think it's really been because of games and spreads like this, where it just seems a little high to me. I think maybe Seattle's the team going in. Over the past few weeks, everybody said, all right, look out for Seattle. And I think that kind of goes without saying at this point.
Yeah.
Because they got the experience, they have the defense. Pretty much, what we expected to see from them, they've done over the past few weeks. But that being said, I think that we're kind of losing sight of how good the Vikings are.
Right.
I think that it's a bad matchup for them. Like you mentioned, if they take away Adrian Peterson, they're probably screwed. I think it's similar to the situation with the Bengals versus Steelers, that they're going to need good quarterback play from Teddy Bridgewater, and we just haven't really seen it yet. It's been pretty inconsistent. I think that showed signs towards the end of the year that maybe he's evolving into a legitimate threat. He had that 4-touchdown performance in Week 15.
Yeah.
And then kind of tailed off towards the end.
Then he threw a left-handed interception on
Sunday night.
So,
again,
he's right-handed, by the way.
This is a guy that, I mean, it's tough to really figure out what you're going to get from him. But I look at that 5 points, and I don't know. I just feel like we're kind of writing off Minnesota. At home in Minnesota.
I get it.
Writing them off.
5 points in the element, the playoffs, it's a lot.
Yeah.
But I just think Seattle's playing too well right now. The one issue I do have for Seattle, injuries kind of playing a role. They had, for a Week 17 game, they kind of dinged up last week. Pete Carroll says, the quote is, "We have a pretty optimistic outlook on most everybody coming back. We'll see how that works out," which is coach speak for, I'm not telling you guys anything.
Yeah, screw.
And Marshawn Lynch, Carroll did say Lynch is ready to go. That's the only one guy he really touched on. He's been out since Week 10 with an ab injury. That's tough. I mean, I don't know if you ever hurt your abs sneezing or something like that. It's
knock on wood, I haven't. But.
It lingers. So that's not great, but I think just having him on the field kind of adds an element. It makes Russell Wilson even better, I think. Although Wilson's hot streak kind of did coincide with Lynch getting injured, which is kind of weird. Again, Wilson playing as well as anybody, 24 touchdowns, 1 pick since Week 11. That's unreal. But again, going back to the injuries, Russell Okung missed the final 2 games with a calf injury. He's a left tackle. Right guard J.R. Sweezy missed Week 17 with a concussion. If those guys aren't back, Seattle has had problems protecting the quarterback this year. That was especially early in the season. So if that's an issue, maybe I can see Minnesota keeping this game close. But
the Vikings can get after it. I mean, they're 7th in the league, I believe, in sacks. Yeah. So I mean, it's not. They have the ability to put pressure on the quarterback. And one thing that I look at, we kind of lose sight of the fact, with Seattle steamrolling everyone towards the end of the year, they had that little slip up versus the Rams. And maybe I'm way off base with this, but when I look at the Rams, I see kind of a poor man's version of the Vikings.
Okay.
A team has
very poor man.
A very, 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 very poor man. But they, good defense, good rushing attack. I mean, I could see that being an issue, this type of matchup for Seattle.
Yeah.
So I mean, it works. It's working both ways, yeah.
Yep. Also, Luke Wilson missed Week 17 with a concussion. So there's a few guys on the offense dinged up. Cam Chancellor missed the final 3 games with a hip injury.
I think Minnesota, they're a little bit healthier now than they were, I think.
That's a big point,
From a defensive standpoint than they were earlier this season.
They were missing 3 key defensive players in that earlier game at Week 13. So I think that might be the best game of the weekend. That one or the Saturday night game.
It's tough to put a finger on that one.
All right.
As with the next one.
We've
already seen the line jumping around on this. So.
Yeah, let's jump into this one and get out of here quickly before the Miller. We overstay our welcome here.
They love us.
They do love it. Green Bay, they are going to Washington. Green Bay loses in Week 17, looks horrible, and actually kind of plays in their benefit because now they're going to play Washington. It's on the road, yes. I like this matchup a lot better than having to play Minnesota again, or if for some reason they had to play Seattle. So works out well for them. This game opened, the Redskins as 2-point favorites in some places. OddsShark, where we get our lines from, had them at 1.5 to start. 50-50 bets, a lot of money coming in on Green Bay. The line's actually pushed the Packers 1-point favorites now.
That's crazy.
That's pretty. This team has looked clueless in the last few weeks.
That has to be an effect of people not watching the regular season.
I think
coming in playoff time.
People there's a lot of Packers fans.
Right.
People love to bet on the Packers. I think that's kind of pushed it. You start that line relatively high or whatever. It's just people jump on the Packers as underdogs. I think it pushes the line.
Now, not only is it, if you told me that the Redskins would be hosting a playoff game to be in the playoffs, would I tell you that, you should go to detox or something. But the fact that if you told me that the Redskins would be more equipped to handle a shootout than the Packers right now, because Kirk Cousins is playing pretty well. Washington much better at home this season.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point.
So, and whereas Green Bay, I just look at them each week and say, what are we doing offensively here?
It's a joke.
It's the end game.
It's a disaster. To your point, Cousins, 100-plus passer rate in his last 6 games in each of them, 125.3 overall. The big issue with the Packers is the offense. The defense has been okay.
Which is amazing.
Right.
Especially considering, going into the season. And the Packers were a team that at the beginning of the year, even as good as they were, you thought there was kind of room for improvement, and they've done nothing but go in the opposite direction.
Right. Offensive line, big issue. David Bakhtiari missed last week with an ankle injury. He's hopeful to play this week, and he tested out in pregame last week. Couldn't go. They had to move Josh Sitton from left guard to left tackle. That was kind of a disaster. You look at the Packers, I mean, the play calling's been atrocious for a lot of the season. The receivers can't get open, but the inability to keep Rodgers upright is hurt as well. We saw it in week 16 against Arizona where they just got whitewashed.
Yeah.
Rodgers been sacked 46 times this season. He was only sacked 28 times last year. It's kind of weird to think, too, this is the third most times he's been sacked in his career. I mean, he's been sacked, 50 and 51 times at other points? I mean, imagine if they had an offensive line for his entire career. So I guess if they get Bakhtiari back, maybe it gets a little better. Also, Sam Shields has been out since suffering a concussion in Week 14. He did practice last week. So that's a big guy to have back because you want him up against Deshaun Jackson. Maybe kind of slows down what you talked about. That Washington offense has been unbelievable.
Jordan Reed finally staying healthy and on the field. We've seen how dynamic he can be.
And I'm kind of, the over-under on this one's 45. I might be inclined to hammer the over here because
I'm with you.
I think the Packers' offense might get fixed this week by virtue of how bad the Redskins' defense is, which I don't think a lot of people are talking about. Redskins allowing 4.8 yards per rush this season, which is second worst in the league, or was second worst in the league. So this is the thing. The Packers have to commit to that game plan, which they haven't been able to do. We saw it Sunday in Week 17. Eddie Lacy came out running real well, looked as good as he has all season, and Mike McCarthy starts the next drive or drive after with James Starks in the backfield and gets away from it. And by the end of the game, they're doing the same crap that they were doing earlier in the season. So if they commit to the run, I think they have a chance. Again, that's a huge leap of faith. I locked in the Packers as underdogs. I like them as favorites, too. I don't think the line switches enough for me. But, I mean, I could see them getting blown out, too, because they haven't done a whole lot to really instill any confidence. I just like the matchup. So
yeah, I mean, Redskins, we've said this countless times on the podcast. They just never really did it for me this year.
Right.
And you look at them and it's like, all right, they're the Redskins. They didn't really jump off the page at all. But in this matchup, I mean, you mentioned this, like, they have defensive flaws that can be exposed, particularly by a team like the Packers who, let's face it, Aaron Rodgers is still one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL.
And
so they should be able to take advantage of those flaws. I'm just not sure at this point that Green Bay is equipped to get out of their own way.
I get it. Yeah, no, I totally understand. I think you're probably going to be right. I'm playing the matchup.
It's the first time I've ever heard anybody say that.
A little blind optimism on my part. Also, I just want to mention real quick, in my preseason power rankings, I picked the Redskins number 32. Said they're a joke of a franchise, and here they are about to knock my favorite team out of the playoffs. Don't you love sports?
It's amazing how things work.
They get paid. I get paid to do this. It's unbelievable. Anything else you want to touch on?
You
want to continue? Let's eat some lunch.
Yeah, I agree.
Again,
talk people's ear off enough.
Yeah, I don't think we can thank Miller's enough for putting us up. This is
awesome.
Awesome. Just a reminder, you can cheer on your favorite team at Miller's Alehouse. They say you haven't experienced the ultimate. I mean, you haven't experienced the ultimate in sports viewing until you've been here. This place is awesome to watch.
Right.
Watch sports. I wish we had done this later in the day or something with some games.
Maybe towards the end of the day. Maybe stick a few suds in front of us.
Exactly.
Really see where this thing unravels into.
They've typically
if we got a clear mind and spewing the things that we do.
Right. Yeah.
God only knows.
A little inebriated.
Yeah,
we've got over 70 TVs. You always have the best seat in the house. You can come hang out with your friends. Maybe even meet new ones. I know that's a big thing for you in Fort Myers. Saddle up in the bar. You can relax, watch the game, enjoy. They have daily specials, ice cold beer. They do have ice cold beer. We've shared beer here before. It's delicious. Refreshing cocktails, amazing food like the zingers, like the
Zingers.
Like the jambalaya,
the
jumbo wings. My goodness, it's all delicious. They like. I like what their tagline is. Come into the place that's just like home, but with more TVs. And your family's not here. If you come at the right time. So.
Broke the ice with the jambalaya.
Yeah. Once again, thanks to Miller's. Be sure to stop by your local Miller's. It's a great place to eat, watch the game. Plenty of games this weekend. I think you and I might end up at a Miller's at some point this weekend.
Okay. I'll be there.
That's it for the Nesson.com NFL Picks Podcast Wildcard Round Edition. We'll be back somewhere. I don't know where we're going to be next week. Hopefully right here.
Tell me. Yeah. I'll be there. I'll pencil it in. I got nothing going on.
Hopefully the food's just as good. I'm Mike Cole. That's Ricky Doyle. We'll see you guys next week.